a jail term for lying to the FBI. And some conservative commentators argued the FBI had entrapped him.
Almost everyone thought this would be simple. In, out, no jail time.
We all thought that General Flynn was going to get sentenced today and that it would probably be just a little bit of time. But oh no, something very different happened.
Which invites the question, why is a guy who told the truth being charged with the crime of lying?
Judge Sullivan can throw out this guilty plea if he concludes the FBI intentionally interfered with their target, Flynn's constitutional right to counsel.
If you watched Fox for the last 72 hours, there was this expectation that this judge was going to make a martyr out of Flynn.
Well, not all of Fox, but federal judge Emmett Sullivan said he was disgusted by Flynn's comment, telling him, arguably, you sold your country out. He made clear that Flynn was likely to get some jail time, but allowed him a postponement so he could further cooperate with prosecutors. And Molly, whether you agree or disagree with what the judge did, the media left, right, and center were just, as we saw, shocked and amazed that Mike Flynn didn't have a quickie hearing with no jail time.
Right. I do want to point out that Judge Sullivan did immediately walk back those comments. He said he sort of said he was trying to make a hypothetical argument,
yes,
and he apologized for that, and I think that's important to mention. This is a very complicated case, and I think what Mike Flynn's lawyers were trying to do was point out that he'd been pressured into accepting a plea deal for something that he probably didn't do to avoid all of his other legal problems. The judge in this case has a long reputation of being someone who says, if you plead to something, you better have done it. And so he gave them every opportunity to pull back on their plea. They didn't do it. He was really testing the boundaries of that plea agreement, and I think a lot of people didn't understand what was happening. But yeah, so now we don't have sentencing for another 90 days.
You know, Flynn, even some liberals in the media sounded sympathetic to Flynn. Career military man, he cooperated early, he doesn't deserve jail time, and I think that may have clouded their view of what was going on.
I think, I have to be honest, I was nervous about Sullivan's ruling. I've had a little bit of experience with him because he was the judge, one of the judges in Hillary Clinton's email matter, and was very tough on her. And when he asked to see the FBI notes, it seemed like, uh-oh, he's buying into this notion. But the flip side is, he then saw everything that we can't see and had a very strong reaction. But on a larger point, as a crisis communications point, I don't understand why the White House, the president in particular, has ever veered from no collusion. It is the most effective thing he ever says. Why that umbrella ever expands to Manafort, to Flynn, to any of these guys, it was setting themselves up for disappointment.
It expands in part because this Mueller probe has not found any collusion.
But just say, look,
it's going on to all these other places.
I don't know what these people are doing. I know what I didn't do.
Let me get serious.
Don't say he wasn't here that much. Or
okay, so was this a bit of media groupthink? Because everyone in our world, our bubble, said, yeah, you know, prosecution agrees, defense agrees, you won't get jail time, you cooperated. And the judge comes in and he's looking not only at this narrow question of lying to the FBI or not, but other crimes that Flynn wasn't charged with, for example, illegal lobbying for Turkey. And he's a senior White House official, and he says, hey, he sees a much darker picture in a way it was portrayed by the press.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the press was dumbfounded to see something that we probably should have been better prepared to see. I mean, look, at the end of the day, as you mentioned, the judge has insight into some of these things that we don't have insight into. And by the way, we've seen surprising judge rulings for months now coming out of this administration. So we should be prepared always to have some sort of surprise ruling. I think when you hear things like what we just heard with Chris Cuomo, that this is going to be a damning ruling based off of what the judge said today, that's going overboard as well. We still don't know what he knows, and so we just have to be prepared to acknowledge anything.
And also because of this judge, we now got to see some of these 302s that Congress has been trying and failing to see.
These
and so we did get some transparency.
FBI
and it does pose some pretty difficult questions about what the FBI was doing.
If anything, they went overboard to say, are you sure that's what it was? Wanting to give him a hand.
Well, look, there was a Wall Street Journal editorial titled The Flynn Entrapment, and that many conservative commentators on Fox and elsewhere made the case that Flynn either didn't lie or the FBI had set a perjury trap. When Flynn's lawyers made that argument, it backfired.
Well, It did, but the underlying facts are true. We had a criminal leak, an illegal criminal leak of a phone call that Mike Flynn had with an ambassador from Russia that never had any wrongdoing in it. That was leaked to the Washington Post. No one's even been investigated for that, much less prosecuted. The day before the FBI went to interview him, and why were they interviewing him? They leaked to the Washington Post that he was in no legal jeopardy. They suggested that he was in no legal jeopardy. They encouraged him not to have attorneys there. These are all types of behavior that are inappropriate. James Comey himself admitted he got away with it. This is not what you want to hear from your top law enforcement agency.
Not,
I think it's diminishing. I mean, Molly is good at what she does, but this is diminishing what Flynn actually did. Flynn is someone who, as soon as the inauguration, was standing on the podium making deals on his text message. He should not have been.
That's not what he's charged with, though. That's what's kind of interesting.
He is charged with lying. You know what? It's bad to lie to the FBI.
You should never lie to any
public service message. If you're looking at home, don't lie to the FBI. It's not a good
idea. For instance, when Hillary Clinton said she didn't know how classified systems worked, and yet the FBI decided not to prosecute
that's not
that.
a lie.
All right, you two can take this outside because I want to talk to Sarah. So some of the mainstream media are kind of selling this as a repudiation of the whole deep state theory, you know, that people are being railroaded like Mike Flynn. But it is a case of somebody who did, after all, lie to the FBI, pleaded to lying to the FBI. And this notion of, well, he didn't know. I mean, he's a former head of the Defense Intelligence Agency. He knows something.
Three-star military general.
Yeah.
Highest national security post next to the president.
Right.
You know not to lie to the FBI. In fact, those reports that he was, you know, kind of happy and his demeanor seemed so honest, it means that, quite frankly, to me, Flynn did something wrong in lying to the FBI. He might not have even realized at the time what he was doing, but it doesn't undermine what Sullivan was saying that it's wrong.
Molly had more words, but she can take it up on Twitter.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. We begin this show with some shocking news. Lying has been detected here in Washington. Mendacity, deceit, duplicitousness, saying things that aren't true. The hair on my arms is going up just telling you about this. But it happened, and we can prove it. Now, to be clear, news anchors didn't do it. News anchors don't lie. They're good people. Neither do professional cable news commentators, the one making millions on the side as lobbyists for foreign governments or big multinational corporations. Commentators always tell the truth. And that's why they and their scrupulously honest news anchor friends are so utterly disgusted tonight, horrified really, by what retired General Michael Flynn has done. Watch their stunned reactions.
Michael Flynn lied to the FBI. Flynn lied again and again and again to FBI agents. Just lied. Lies, lies, and more lies.
Hold on for just a minute about who's significant and who's not. Flynn lied. The tone should be when you speak to a prosecutor, you speak to the truth. Everybody lied.
Michael Flynn was betraying his country. Michael Flynn was betraying his office.
He lied, says Don Lemon and his news anchor's friend. Lied, lied, lied. He's a very bad man, a lying kind of man, the worst kind. He could never work in television. For his crime of lying, Michael Flynn, the liar, may soon be locked away in a cell. That would keep the rest of us safe from his perfidious lies. That day can't come fast enough, say the news anchors. Cuff him. America longs to breathe free once more. Michael Flynn will be 60 years old next week. The Washington Post calculates he faces 5 years in prison. And let that be a warning to all of us. That's what happens to people who lie in Washington. Or does it? From a golf course somewhere in Dubai, you can almost hear Bill Clinton chuckling softly. Lied under oath, still making 300 grand a speech. Not everyone faces the same penalties for lying, it turns out. Mark Zuckerberg came to Washington last spring to talk about Facebook. That's the soul-destroying social media company that has made him a multi-billionaire. While in town, Zuckerberg stopped by the Congress where, and you might want to ask the kids to leave the room for this, he lied. Yep. Don't tell Don Lemon, but Mark Zuckerberg is a liar. Watch him do it.
This is the most important principle for Facebook. Every piece of content that you share on Facebook, you own, and you have complete control over who sees it and how you share it, and you can remove it at any time.
Are you willing to give me more control over my data?
Senator, as someone who uses Facebook, I believe that you should have complete control over your data.
Yeah, you have complete control over your data. You control who sees it, you own it. That's really the most important principle at Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg says so with a completely straight face. The only problem, it was a lie. Sorry, kids. According to a piece in the New York Times, Facebook does not actually allow you or anyone else to control your data. Not at all. In fact, they secretly hand over your data, personal data, to other big tech companies. Now, that decision has made Mark Zuckerberg even richer, adding on to the house in Hawaii probably. Unfortunately, he's had to lie in the process, including to Congress, and that's a crime. As Robespierre once famously noted, you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. In this case, the eggs are your privacy. Apparently, Facebook allowed Microsoft's search engine Bing to see the names of your Facebook friends without telling you about it. Facebook also allowed Netflix and Spotify to read your private messages without telling you. Now, there's no evidence so far as of tonight that Facebook has a video camera hidden in your shower, but close enough. That's what Mark Zuckerberg lied about. Not a small lie, really. What did Mike Flynn lie about? Well, according to the FBI, Flynn lied about conversations he'd had with the Russian ambassador, Kislyak. You remember him. Flynn said that he and Kislyak had never talked about expelling Russian diplomats or about Russia voting in the UN on symbolic resolutions. And in fact, they had talked about both of those things. The feds already knew that because they were listening in secretly. There was nothing improper about the conversations that Flynn and Kislyak had. The crime was the lie. It's always the crime, except when it's Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg can lie about something that affects hundreds of millions of Americans, but it's not really a big deal. Zuckerberg is not looking at 5 years in prison. Zuckerberg will not be sanctioned by Congress ever. So what's the difference? Well, unlike Mike Flynn, Mark Zuckerberg is a hero to the American news media. He's who they want to be. He's richer than God. He went to Harvard. He wears T-shirts at work, for real. He's for open borders. All the cool people like Mark Zuckerberg, even in foreign countries. For example, when the fascist government of China was looking for new tools to repress its own population, you think they went to Mike Flynn for help? Yeah, okay. I don't think so. Flynn is tough on China, old-fashioned as he is, but Mark Zuckerberg, by contrast, was happy to help. As they say at McKinsey, Mark Zuckerberg gets it. And by the way, what has Mike Flynn ever done for anyone? 33 years in uniform? That's not very innovative. Two lies told by two high-profile Americans. One is going to prison in late middle age. The other will be available for like 40 years for commencement addresses and awards dinners held in his honor. That's the tale of Mike Flynn and Mark Zuckerberg. It tells you everything.
Dozens of shows, best conservatives.
Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. I'm Glenn Beck, along with Stu, my executive producer, and Pat is joining us from Pat Gray Unleashed, which is a podcast, and also on the Blaze Radio Network. You can hear it every day prior to this program. Pat, the wall, caving on the wall, and giving Mexico $5 billion.
Yeah, we can't get a penny for the wall.
No.
We can give $10.6 billion to Central America and Mexico.
Yeah.
How does that make any sense to anybody?
Pulling out of Syria yesterday, which is handing Iran the Middle East and Russia, and then an executive order on bump stocks.
Not
yesterday.
a good week. Not a good week.
I think
for
beyond
my money.
that. I think beyond that. I think depending on what he does, if Donald Trump would have said, you know what, everyone, even my own party, stands against me on the wall. But I'm shutting down the government, and it's going to require the people to stand up and let their voices be heard.
Huge win for him if he would have done that.
Huge win. Even if he lost the wall,
Yep.
a huge win for him.
Yep.
And he caves after beating his chest.
Really strange.
Insanity. Then Syria just pulling out without even the advisor. And then bump stocks.
Oh, yeah. Oof.
On an executive order.
Man.
Which you don't want to do. And beyond that, wait a minute, hang on just a second. Nobody was calling for those right now. There's nobody up in arms. You give those up when you're dealing with something else. And everybody is screaming and yelling. You're like, okay, we're going to do some common sense stuff. I'm going to sign a law if you pass it that will get rid of bump stocks. That's how you do it.
It was such a bad day, and I was angry enough at his actions this week that I had to go back and check my list of the good things he's done, just so I could get a little bit of balance back into my mindset.
But it's been such a bad couple of weeks.
It's been really bad.
You have Kavanaugh last week going over and playing footsie with Planned Parenthood, and you're like, wait a minute, have we been duped on this guy?
Right.
So
it's been the kind of week that we warned about during the campaign.
It is,
and not to quibble with this point because I think I know the context you're making it, but what you described as the way to ban bump stock is not the way to ban bump stocks.
No,
you start off with a constitutional amendment which repeals or at least alters the Second Amendment.
I know.
Then you go to the House and the Senate and the presidency. Then you go confiscate them, and then I guess you make another law against rubber bands and belt loops.
Yeah,
that's your next step there.
Yeah,
good luck with it.
This is going to make anybody who owns one a criminal.
Yeah.
This is really not good. This is really not good.
There's also so many ways to modify a weapon.
You can do it with a rubber band.
Yeah, this is dumb. It's dumb.
You have 90 days, by the way. If you have 90 days to get rid of these, or you're a felon. So, by the way, this law, the way this works, is it puts double the amount of penalty on having a bump stock than if you actually take a loaded rifle into a school. That's how ridiculous this is. And again, it's not a law. It's a rule. It's a rule. They just made a new rule in which they defined the bump stock basically itself as a machine gun, which it is not.
Okay. Let me go to Bill in North Carolina. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Bill, North Carolina, welcome.
Hey. Good morning, guys. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
I don't feel like I'm in Christmas spirit right now.
But but we will.
Hey, I think it's a genius move what President Trump did with the bump stock. All right, and here's why. He's going to force a lawsuit. In fact, the GOA has already filed one.
Good.
It's going to force the courts to determine exactly what you're saying, that it is not a machine gun. It protects gun grabbing of semi-automatic weapons in the future because you already said you can do it with a belt loop or a rubber band.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we didn't go far enough with a bump stock ban, so now we got banned semi-automatics. I see the Democrats doing that.
Right.
He's outmaneuvering them by doing it this way and forcing a lawsuit.
You know what, Bill, I would love to take that. And maybe you're right.
It's a risky game.
It's a very risky game, especially with the way Kavanaugh just voted. A very, very risky game, because if you lose it in the Supreme Court, then you're dealing with a whole new world where confiscation and executive orders can ban anything that they want constitutionally. And I also, warned people when they all said that John Roberts was also playing along.
I was thinking the same thing. That's the same calls we got after John Roberts ruled against Obamacare.
Yeah.
Oh, it was just a strategic thing. Eventually, ruled for Obamacare. Eventually, what he's leading to is a bigger deal where he's going to overturn more things in favor of conservatives.
Yeah.
That's not the way this works.
No.
He's going to go down. Even if it is the way it works, you don't break the Constitution for a strategic point.
No, it's the president's job to protect the Constitution. And if you believe that, you should come out and say, I'm going to sign this in because I think this is, as an executive order, is illegal, is wrong. I think this is wrong. I'm going to sign it in because somebody's got to challenge it, even if he challenges it himself. Make that point that you're doing that. Don't do it this way. Let me go to Ryan in Kansas. Hello, Ryan. Line 8.
Hello. Hello. Good morning, everybody.
How are you?
Doing well. Actually, that was kind of a lie because I'm sort of infuriated by this this bump stock move and the Syria decision. Syria and weak foreign policy was exactly the sort of thing I criticized Obama for, and this bump stock thing would have been my nightmare if Obama had done it. But what upsets me even more than that is the number of people I've interacted with who are absolutely the Make America Great Again people who they won't criticize Trump on this. And I just think if you come down on principle, there's absolutely no way that you could be on the political right and not be upset by this, with the understanding that if it had been a Democrat doing this, you'd be livid. I wonder if there's anything Donald Trump could do that would get these people to criticize him at this point. If not this, then I don't know what.
Look, we have to be people that criticize when somebody does something wrong and praises when they do something right and call balls and strikes. I've tried to do that. I gave the president a fresh start when he was president. I watched his record. Okay, this is good. This is good. This is good. The last 2 weeks have been a disaster. An absolute disaster. And, you want to talk about the president, foreshadowing or playing a longer game. Yeah, it could be with pulling out of Syria, the ISIS thing, and now the bump stocks. And also the prison thing, which I'm for, the prison reform. He might be signaling to the left, look, I know you guys are coming in. There's a lot we can do together.
Pat, can you give us some things from the list of good things that he's done so we can kind of bring ourselves back?
Wow. Israel.
Yeah,
Jerusalem.
Israel. Yes.
Keep coming to that.
Okay, yes.
Jerusalem.
Gorsuch. Okay.
Really good.
He's removed some EPA regulations that were ridiculous. He got us out of the Paris Accord.
Yeah.
Got us out of the TPP.